Hello everyone, my name is Moji. You're watching a Bitcoin Bubble News channel. As an asset, my life is infinite, but my time is finite. It's the promise of Bitcoin, the fact that I have fixed value money that lets me value my time and energy right now. So when you hear Bitcoin or say, I got into Bitcoin and I got healthier, I got into Bitcoin, I lowered my time preference, I got into Bitcoin and I thought about the world differently, it means that you went from living an infinite life to a finite one, which is impossible to value to a limited life because Bitcoin is decentralized and has limited resources. It devalues our time and energy, takes our resources away, and leads to social breakdown, discontent, and civil unrest. Supplying Bitcoin is the closest answer to this problem and should solve it. A small group of people owns most of the money, which makes them very rich. When the value of a currency drops, higher value things usually go up in value without any extra work on our part, while others have to work harder to keep up their quality of life, which makes them unhappy and wastes our time and energy. Strike Jack Mers, the founder and CEO of Jack Mers Rec, talks with podcaster Zuby about Bitcoin's rules and the future of money. Jack talks about the past of Bitcoin and shares his positive views on its value proposition and the overlooked link between money, time, and energy. Kindly give this video a thumbs up, join the channel, and turn on post alerts to see more videos just like this. Bitcoin, the first cryptocurrency, can only get stronger since it gives people a great prize for their time and effort. Getting a better handle on money is the best place to start. In a broad sense, I like to think of money as our time and energy. For example, you do this podcast and get paid for it. I run Strike and get paid for it. In return, you mow your lawn and fix your windscreen. If you drive someone else's car for money, that's money. Money is the market good that represents our combined contributions to society. It's meant to represent our time and energy so that we can either save them or trade them. In other words, you can't go to a restaurant after this show and say, hey guys, I just recorded a podcast, I'll take 2 steaks, like what that's called bartering, right? So we can get rid of barter, grow the economy, and become very, very good at something like a podcast. A podcast isn't a market good that can be traded for dinner, gas, or food, but it can be traded for money, so money is that market good again for time and energy that aren't tangible. Let's think about what would happen if I saved my time and energy in wheat. I would work all day on whatever I'm doing and get wheat in return. How good is that money? If wheat is the money that lasts and saves over time, it's not very good because it will go bad, moldy, and stale in about a week. That means that wheat will be worthless. Then, how good is that money? Can I use my phone to send that wheat to Europe? A very strong idea is to think of money as a way to collect your time and energy, rather than as a piece of paper or something that the government tells you to use. The dollar was then put next to it to see if a government could make its own money. They are debasing their money, which means they are debasing your time and energy as well. Yes, that makes perfect sense. Also, I think that a government's ability to borrow its own money is the closest thing we've ever seen to time travel, since it's borrowing time and energy from the people of the future. We'll pay you back at some point, but that's crazy to take time and energy from the future. It's almost as bad as time travel, but every time the US government prints a dollar, they lower my value because I've spent time and energy on this world and got us dollars in return. Now those dollars are worth less, so I'm worth less. So the idea that money that stays the same can't be devalued, and neither can the time and energy of the people who hold it. That's something that doesn't belong to a government, a ruling party, a business, or a person. It's the most powerful way to store our time and energy, and you'd have to know a lot about the past of money. When you study history, you try to get as close as you can, right? At the moment, I think Bitcoin is the best way to store all of our time and energy. But once upon a time, it was gold. Why? Because those chemicals get us pretty close. It's harder to find more gold and debase our time and energy than it is silver or copper, right? And real estate is seen as a place to store money, time, and energy. Just because you can't print more land doesn't mean you can't print more real estate, like they're going to build. Building a skyscraper 1,000 stories high in Manhattan one day, so we've tried to find cars that are close enough at the time, and energy piece and Bitcoin. This is how I understand Satoshi and Bitcoin. The best tool for storing your time and energy is money, which you can then use to buy something in the market. That progress is so strong that I think this is the last thing I'll say. I know I'm rambling now, but this may get a little weird or dark. I like to compare Bitcoin's promise and guarantee of being a set form of money to the promise and guarantee of death and the fact that we can't live forever. Knowing that I'm going to die is what makes me value my life. If I knew I could live forever, I'd go to the gym, and after 10,000 years, I'd think about having children. But after 100,000 years, why would I? The point is that I wouldn't be able to value today. If there are an infinite number of dollars, there are also an infinite number of debts. It doesn't help me value the paycheck I'm getting now, so the promise that I will die is what helps me value my life. An object has no end date, but time does. And that's what Bitcoin promises. Since I have a steady income, I can value my time and energy right now. That's why when you hear Bitcoin or say, I got into Bitcoin, I got healthier, I lowered my time preference, I mean it. When I learned about Bitcoin, my views on the world changed. Do you understand what it means to go from a life of infinity that you can't value to a life of finiteness that you have to value? That does make sense. I see it as a transformational tool and a step forward in money, which is how we exchange value and save time and energy. Jack Mers believes that the way the system values our time and energy makes life harder for many people, which is bad for society. He thinks Bitcoin is the answer because it makes it easier to store, save, and trade time and energy. It could solve all of the world's problems. Satoshi made Bitcoin a spread system, which means that no one can get to time or energy. Proof of work stops the idea that people can take over other people's time and energy. To get Bitcoin, users have to put in real work and energy. The system is meant to stop people from making and keeping wealth, since everyone, even rich people, needs to give back more than they take in. When we print money in the fiat system, we give everyone time and energy. But in Bitcoin, wealth is divided, and the only way for someone to keep their wealth is to make more than they spend. Of course, that's right. So your dad makes £4,000 a year, and the house they were looking at cost about £15,000 or £10,000 to £20,000, based on what you wanted. That sounds like it would take 2.5 to 3 years of hard work to get. I urge everyone hearing to look into metrics like the average year someone gets married and the percentage of the population that becomes a homeowner. Things are getting worse all the time. For example, people used to get married around 22, 23, but now they get married around 32, 33. Death rates are going up, life expectancy is going down, and the number of divorces is going up. All of these signs tell me that living a life you're happy with takes more time and effort. People who are still people are having to work 23 to 40, 50 years to own a house, while your dad could have done it in 2.5 to 3.5 to 3.5 years. This is because the value of the currency is being lowered, which is like abstracting time and energy. Making it harder to live a healthy life takes more time and energy, and it hurts society. It's a terrible, evil thing to do. People who steal from people are actually taking time and energy from everyone else. For example, when the price of petrol goes up and the cost of groceries goes up, your McDonald's order goes up, and so on. It just takes more time and energy to live the life you know from. What you do with the time you have and the energy you give is what your life is all about. Your life is limited by the time you are given and displayed through the energy you give. And they're lowering the value of that, which means that every time they lower the value of your money, they lower the value of you. It was a terrible crime, and I think we can all feel that society is getting worse in many ways. We can feel that people are getting more angry, that there is social unrest, and that the real estate market is getting worse.